Welcome to Playing with Perspective, the suspended animation podcast, where we hear real stories from real people and we tackle all sorts of fun topics in the areas of business, marketing, entrepreneurship, mindset, the arts, and, well, life itself. It's amazing what you will pick up. Thanks for joining us. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Playing with Perspective, the suspended animation podcast. I'm Darren Saul, your host. It's episode 193, and I have got the Doctor of Self-Worth, Endre Hoffmann, in the house. Andre, how are you?
Thanks very much, Darren. How are you going?
Very well indeed. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really happy about this show. And I'm really looking forward to getting into this great topic, which is from unconsciousness to true purpose. So what a fantastic topic for a show. I think that's such an important thing. Everybody's struggling with, what their true purpose is in life, what their true purpose is in work. And I think it's a really, really great topic to discuss and unpack today with the audience. So I really appreciate you doing that.
Yes, I'm very excited because I believe that about 90% of the population live in unconsciousness, not knowing who they are and what they want. Yeah. And I believe you and I, and probably some others out there, we are trying to bring clarity to have a purposeful life. Yep. Really be present, enjoy, coming from peace. And the old programming has to drop. That was suggested, planted, times of childhood, and then pretty much build a new life and design it as you
I think
want
that's
to
such
have
a
it.
good point. I think that's such a good point that, we don't have to use the same operating system, the same programs that we've always used just because we can change them.
Well, as you say, I sometimes bring that example of some of the audience may remember there were these Commodore computers in the 80s and the 90s, but I can bring any example, maybe the first Windows machine. Imagine had that in your head as your operating system, and imagine that never had an upgrade.
Oh my God.
So how would today's programs would run on that old dinosaur operating system? It would probably crash.
Absolutely.
It would be more than a bumpy road, probably
with
my God. Crisis, falling over and tripling yourself all the way. And this is how some people experience their lives.
Yeah.
Relationships, business, relationship with money just becomes a true evidence of that old programming that is always in the way.
Yeah,
and
so true.
What really happens is, I've got my little glasses here. If they put some beliefs into your head, or you can suggest it, then
I love it.
Then you may not see it. You've been living all your life, and you're seeing everyone else perfectly.
Yeah.
You're not aware that you had a filter put in front of your eyes, or let's say beliefs suggested, and those viruses are running. And then comes a day when there is either this brick wall that you hit, massive crisis, sometimes financial, it can be relationship breakdown or health.
Yeah.
And magically, the filter drops.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, you have no chance. There's so much leverage for change. Then people could just change really fast.
Yeah.
At that place of crisis. Almost. The example comes to mind is, let's say you're a vegetarian and you're going on a trip with a cruise and you end up, the boat sinks, you are the only survivor, right? There is this island and you see these animals but there's not much to eat as far as vegetation or plants or fruits. Now, how long would it take for you to change this idea that, well, I'm a vegetarian and it's only safe to eat plants?
That's right.
Because I can tell you, probably day 2,
Yep.
day 3, if
Very
you're really
quickly.
hanging on to that belief, maybe a week.
Yeah.
But the leverage,
It's too
absolutely creating that subconscious mind is now tipping the scale.
Yeah.
Well, now there's more pain by hanging on to the belief than actually do what I need to do at this place and at this time. And this is where the mind is limiting our experience, where the mind has no sense of time. Because I come across people who have been carrying ideas of not good enough, ideas of that I'm not worthy of love, or I can't do it, I'm unlucky. And yes, they could have had an experience in the past where this could have been true, although this is still just an interpretation of what happened. And the mind does not realize that was 20, 30, 40, at times 50 years ago.
Wow.
And when you put on that belief or that filter in front of your eyes, then that's all you start to see.
Yeah.
That I'm not lucky, I can't succeed, or people are abusing me. I've been plenty of examples of how beliefs or an idea, because at that time that's an idea, at that first event, becomes an assumption. Then there may be another event with the filter on, and it tends to become a congruent belief.
Yeah.
And from that place, this person is looking at the world through that frame, and they are not able to see anything above or below or on the side of that frame. And they start to experience a limited life where their whole life start to just becoming a mirror of these beliefs. And that's the most wonderful things. I really get excited when I hear how difficult life is for someone, because
you know how much you can help.
Yeah, then I have a chance.
Yeah.
Because then I hear, wow, there is already enough leverage here.
Yeah.
I don't need to help to create it.
Correct.
And that tells me this person maybe is close to getting ready for transformation. And then we just need to become or bring that awareness in from unconsciousness to face it.
Yeah.
And pretty much change the programming. Or have another version of what happened, which would be exactly the opposite meaning, maybe 180 degrees shift, and there is an empowered human being.
Yep. It's all about how you look at things.
Yep. Absolutely. And what really gets me excited is this. There are a lot of people seeing life as this journey, and it's like the box of chocolate. I think in Forrest Gump line, that you don't know what you get out of it.
Yeah.
And my message is that you can actually choose from that box of chocolate the ones that you prefer or like.
Yes, I like that. I love that.
And with that example, then how do we do that?
Yeah, great. And actually, before we jump in, I just kind of want to give a little bit of an intro to what you do to give people a bit more context. And then I kind of want to go into your own story a little before we kind of get into giving the audience some great tips and trips and strategies.
Got it.
But basically, I just thought I'd introduce you quickly. So just for everybody out there, Endre helps business owners and leaders who experience inner struggle, self-doubt, and running circles in their heads that have those two familiar negative voices. When people first meet with Andre, they are stressed, overwhelmed, exhausted, and terrified by all the accelerating changes of the modern world. Andre helps them to remove the internal conflicts and struggle to achieve confidence and peace within via his Step into Your Power group program and one-on-one transformations, which reconnect them to their authentic leadership and naturally high self-worth. As a result, they enjoy emotional freedom and multiply their impact in business, community, and life. Naturally, they have space to tap into their true genius or purpose because they gain a new identity. And I kind of wanted to put that bit of context in there for the audience so they know, a bit more about where you're coming from as we get into some of these strategies that we're going to be chatting about today. But I'd love you to kind of share with us your story. How did you get into this whole world and why are you so passionate about it?
For me, the age of 5, or as far as I can remember, I had a really dysfunctional relationship with my dad,
Wow.
even with my grandpa, and these two were actually fighting with each other.
Mm-hmm.
They had anger, anxiety, scarcity mindset,
Yep.
and I seem to have adopted a lot of it. But also, I felt that my father is not there for me.
Right.
He was working a lot. He was fighting with business partners. He was fighting with life in general.
Yep.
Lots of fears, angry, stressed, and my interpretation was that probably there's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. He just does not love me, or maybe I don't deserve it.
Yep.
And the patterns have started early on.
If I could just jump in, isn't that amazing that human beings always project that on themselves straight away? What's wrong? What have I done to cause this? Isn't it amazing that the first thing we do is blame ourselves?
There's such an insight there. And yeah, this is one of those, I would say, flukes of the subconscious mind, that it does not have, at early age, it does not have the wisdom or the experience to then create empowering meanings. And it is always looking for fault in ourselves.
Yep.
And that's what happened. I've become this high achiever to impress and to prove myself that I'm good enough to my father.
Yeah.
And actually, I've done that for the next 30 years of my life.
Wow.
Completely unaware.
Wow.
And of course, early on, I started to get results. Like, I became a national champion in basketball. I was running marathons, long distance swimming, climbing ice.
Wow.
And it didn't work. The need to be accepted, loved.
Yep.
When my father didn't have love for himself, how could he he could not give me what he didn't have.
That's right.
But I didn't know this.
Yeah.
And of course, I was very shy, anxious. I would never speak publicly.
Wow.
I went red if I had to speak in front of a class. That day I was sick, guaranteed.
Oh my God.
I made up stories to not show up.
Oh, no.
Anything under the sun you can imagine. Not daring to ask girls out. Sometimes I remember I've been postponing for a year.
Wow.
And I said, now it's too late.
Yep.
And I just gave up on things.
Yeah.
I missed out happiness, inner peace.
Mm-hmm.
And it started to grow as I found myself in banking. And 4 years after, I realized, now, same people there. And it wasn't the life that I wanted. Yeah. And I wanted to get away from my father, really find answers about my life. First, I moved to Ireland. I became a factory worker. Mm-hmm. And then later on, I moved to New Zealand. Wow. Tried again the corporate environment, and the slaps were always the same.
Yeah.
From life.
Nothing was ever enough, and you could never satisfy that need to be accepted.
And chasing the next big thing.
Yeah.
And it came from grandpa. Like, when I had any type of exam or report card from school, he never acknowledged it. Like, he said, when are you get the next level of certification or the master's or the PhD? And then I started to do that to myself.
Oh my God.
Grandpa was in my head and I didn't know.
Oh my God.
And my father. And this is human psychology.
Yeah.
We take on stuff early on and it starts to become the inner voice.
Wow.
The doubting Thomas.
Mm.
And then I moved to New Zealand and I started to travel. I realized that maybe traveling would help me to confront myself and be able to see my own limitations or what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
I was then later I moved back to Budapest. I started up a few businesses and then I landed in this personal development space.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Robbins, John DeMartini,
Yep.
T. Harbecker, all of them. I've been on
Mhm.
the live events. I spent over $100,000 easily on books and seminars on events, and they couldn't fix me.
Yep.
It didn't work. And I thought clearly there's something wrong with me. And basically then I got married, then we moved out to Australia about 10 years ago.
Nice.
And then I had my children, and so the leverage started to increase.
Uh-huh.
Like I could dance around with traveling, because I traveled over 50 or 60 countries with a backpack,
My
seeking out gurus, but now I had the children.
Yeah.
So the patterns started to get really constricting me and my life.
Yeah. Oof.
And for the first 5 years, I still did 9, 10 months of work and traveling for 2 months.
Wow.
I could somehow get a breather and escape reality that I hate my job. I was driving trucks, and although it was making money 12 hours a day, I started up my home business, another 2-3 hours a day.
Nice.
That left me 8-9 hours, and the crisis just started to hit when my children were disconnected from me. I was working all the time. I became pretty much like my father, and I hated myself. There was so much anger.
Yeah.
How could I, with all the things that I've done, end up exactly at the same spot?
Yeah.
And I remember there were days when, my children were asking me, are you going to spend some time and play with me? And I thought, well, I try not to cry here.
Mm.
And these bedtime stories that I was to read, constantly falling asleep.
Wow.
Halfway.
Oh.
And then I allowed the children to slap me. Bit of self-punishment.
Yep.
And they loved it.
Wow.
But inside, I was dying.
It's heartbreaking. Yeah.
I was dying. I thought, how could I end up here? And I think that amount of leverage, then my wife asked me whether I'm ready for divorce, because she doesn't want to live with me anymore because I'm not there anyway. So
yeah.
What's the difference?
Yeah.
And remember leverage?
Yep.
I got 10 out of 10 committed.
Wow.
That's how much I needed to say, well, if this is the last thing in my life to resolve, then this would be my single only purpose, to drop the past and the father and the voices in my head and own my life and maybe build a new one. But I didn't believe it possible, to be honest. But I said, I will not spare any expenses from this point. I will do what it takes, and I will die trying.
Wow.
And I'm happy to do that for the next 50 years of my life.
Wow.
And that was the turning point.
And what were your first steps in that transformation?
Well, I remember that I wanted to find someone who has results in changing inner psychology or mindset. We can call it anything, but of course that starts to then externalize into results. So shortly after, I think a year or two, I had a few dead-end roads with trading and suffering more, but I did find a mindset specialist, and he was able to help me through one-on-one sessions to drop these limiting ideas, these beliefs that not good enough, can't do it, not deserving. And from that point, things started to shift faster and faster. And I've become this new human being who is enjoying emotional freedom. My kids love me. We spend every day together. They are homeschooled.
Unbelievable.
I'm helping people every day in my life. I enjoy what I do. I do this work several languages now. I started working in Spanish just this week.
Wow.
I didn't mean to, but the third language. I don't know how to open enough pages to market myself, but I've become the father I've always wanted to be.
Oh my
And
God, that's an incredible story.
This wonderful podcast that I can spend with amazing people like you, and I can really share the message that, hey, you don't have to be in that hole.
Yeah.
There is another life, and it's not that far.
Wow. And how did that feel when you first started to gain some traction with that mindset coach after a few years, finally, after so many years? How did that feel?
Well, the signal, I really loved it.
Yeah.
And I realized it, the signals, the cue's been there for the last 20 years, where I really wanted to help people. I didn't have the hat to do it. I was always sensitive to see what kind of patterns they are in. I couldn't see mine, of course, but I knew what kind of book I should share and give them, and I did. And they didn't follow through. They loved their own struggles and problems, and I remember a few people I was able to help because they were ready. I didn't know why. There's such a few of them are actually responding to my helpful attempts. But they gave me so much joy. Like this woman, we were in network marketing business 20 years ago. She was able to venture abroad. She got married in somewhere in Alaska. She got an amazing life. She broke out of that. She was in this, I think it was Burger King type of, Hungry Jack's type of job, and 10 years on the job, completely unsatisfied, unhappy. And she knew that there is another life. And I was able to be the person to make that shift inside. That happened to externalize. And she started to really live life. And that's what excites me the most. And this brand, the Doctor of Self-Worth, I'm lucky that I have got it from my clients.
Yeah, I love that.
They started
Doctor of Self-Worth. That's fantastic.
Yes, I kind of become almost precision type of surgery. On really zeroing on that limitation, because each person has maybe 2 or 3 big ones that's been really has deep rooted, suggested, planted, and then when I can get to that and we can pull it with its roots, then their life is shifting, and this is multiple areas of life. And this is where the brand is coming from. Very excited to.
I love it. And I can see the energy and the how open you are and how passionate you are about it. Like it must have been an absolute about-face, life-changing process for you.
Well, Darren, like if there was someone like me, and I would have been ready 20 years ago, well, I could have been doing so much more for others. I could have lived on purpose maybe another 25 years of my life. So I'm just making the most of what I have left.
Unbelievable. And I kind of want to ask, I mean, we've touched on it a bit. We've mentioned, obviously, human psychology dictates a lot naturally that we start to blame ourselves. We start to question ourselves. You know, we're always going inwards. But why do you think a lot of people these days struggle more and more with self-worth, self-belief, self-image? It's everywhere, and they hear it more and more every day as I'm listening to podcasts, watching movies, watching documentaries. Like it's constantly at the forefront of everything we do. Why do you think this is?
I believe social media
Mm.
has started to spread some awareness
Yep.
that they are not the only one. So
Yeah.
they are maybe forthcoming now that, ooh,
Yep.
me too.
Yep. It is
And
a mainstream issue. Yeah.
and it's becoming more and more mainstream. And this is the best thing, because from that place, which is awareness and recognizing there is major challenges, then the solution is not that far.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the mainstream way of dealing with psychological issues, which at times, unfortunately, is modern psychology, medication, has not been really addressing the issues, and the numbers are still increasing. So clearly we have a solution in place. This is mainstream that does not work. And I think people are getting more and more keen to see results and what actually works. And I'm hoping to become one of those people in this industry who is able to say, look, if you didn't get what you wanted, here's your money.
Yeah.
I'm not here taking your money and exchanging time for money.
Yep.
I'm in this to get you the exact results that you come here. It's like, you get rotten milk from Woolworths, then I think you deserve a refund.
I agree.
And I don't think it should be different here.
Yep. Yep.
And I know people go to therapies for 5-10 years, whereas at times it's just a few sessions really to get to the root of things and shift that pattern.
And that's a really good point. You mentioned that you obviously went to Tony Robbins and you followed all the gurus and you read all the books and you did all the programs, and you still after that went for a couple of years with no results, and finally you found that one mindset person or mindset coach that worked. Why do you think that one person was able to do what all those others couldn't do?
Well, probably I was not committed, to be honest.
Right. Yep.
I was not ready for transformation, and I did not make that extra step to say, well, I invest into myself, probably one-on-one.
Yep.
I was still tiptoeing, and the biggest trap which I have been in is go and find more lexical intellectual knowledge, then I will think myself out of my problem.
Yeah.
Well, that's when the problem is. The mind is the problem.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely a catch-22 when and I realized this lately. So a lot of people are buying books, they're going into seminars, but remember, they read the book with
the wrong lens.
filter on.
Yeah.
They are attending the seminar with exactly the same filter. So they are filtering out the information that could actually shift their life.
That's right. Yeah.
It won't.
Yeah.
And the reason it won't, because they erase a limb, like the mind loves to distort the information or erase it so they don't have to face it. It always seeks familiar.
Yeah.
Familiar means safe
Yeah.
for the subconscious, and from that place change is a no-go zone.
Yeah. That's right. Wow. And so obviously, we've discussed that a huge part of this transformation is wanting to do it, being committed to doing it 150%. You have to be ready to make that change. So when you talk to somebody for the first time, what do you do if you feel that they're not ready?
Well, obviously I can ask a few questions to bring awareness, and ultimately it's not my responsibility to save them.
Yeah.
Or I cannot rescue.
Yeah.
But there are certain people out there who has the wisdom to actually really look at life as it has been for the last 10 years, and realized that if I do not change something here, then the next 5 years in the same trend would really lead me to that brick wall, which would be a lot more painful, and that could create the leverage to why not prevent it. And this is where I do not work with a lot of people, where they are not ready, or at times I set an ordeal, and I want to have that ordeal documented, so they prove themselves, they qualify to kind of work with me, because then I know that they are really doing it, because it will be an uncomfortable challenge. Of course, it won't be around where you need to watch TV 2 hours a week.
Here's a book, read a chapter a night.
It may be running 4 a.m. in the morning. And have that recorded. Or we're absolutely pushing them out of that comfort zone. Why? That's what's coming. Change work is actually, you have to change. Or at times, I just say, shave that beard off.
Love it.
It's a massive identity shift for some people.
It is. It's huge. And the longer you leave it, the harder and harder it is to retransform or reform, because it's so entrenched in our everyday psychology. It's just habit. It's comfort. It's security. Exactly. We don't know any other way.
Yeah, and I think you said quite an important word here, identity. If we want to shift identity, and this is where it comes down to self-image, identity, self-worth, then what if who you are today, or who you think yourself to be, is pretty much everything that has happened to you up to this point?
That's right. And I've heard that a million times, that we are the sum of our past experiences.
Yes, so true. And so we want to change that. It's literally impossible, right? Or sounds like impossible. But the work is really to change how we relate to it, or maybe change the meaning.
That's right. There are so many layers to how to interpret our history and our past experience.
And then automatically the person is shifting inside, because that identity is now gaining a new level of awareness. And imagine, like, if we could change every limiting traumatic event in someone's life, from, they have the glue, I call the negative emotions attached to it. If we could separate this person from it, we could turn around each event 180 degrees and say, this served you this way. These are the learnings from this one, and this is how powerful you could be with those learnings. Well, literally, we create a new identity.
I love it.
And from that new identity, and this is the key, showing up is not hard. Behavior or strategy, what to do. Now, this is where 80% of business owners are stuck. Like, they're looking for the magic strategy.
That's right.
But the problem is this, like, who are you in the first place? Or what do you believe about yourself? Or what you think you're worth? And from that place, you don't need to think too much about how you show up or what behavior you need to do. And this is where, some people are paying to different programs and then running in circles, and they're always back at square one.
It's the traditional hamster wheel.
The hamster wheel brings them back down. And then they are scratching their head. What the hell is going on? I see someone else with the same exact strategy. And he has success and I don't. Well, they are not seeing the roots almost under the ground of how that person is built. And that's where the magic is.
Definitely.
This is the famous be, do, have Buddhist principle where strategy itself is just in the middle, and that will not create certain results. And I am the person to prove this. Because I've been striving to get to certain results, finance, chasing money and safety and external things. But inside, I never felt peace. I never felt satisfaction. I never felt that, my life is making sense. I'm here to contribute. I know what I'm about.
Wow. Wow, it's incredible. I mean, first thing I could say is well done to you for doing the work and for actually transforming to such an extent. I mean, it's just incredible.
It's honestly as incredible to me as it is maybe to you.
Yeah.
Because clearly for me, this was impossible.
Yeah.
And this is where I think a lot of people are stuck.
That's right.
Because as I said, from that limiting mindset, this was me. See people shining, able to share a message, sometimes public speak.
Yeah.
Like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
So young, some of them in their 20s. And from that unconsciousness where I was myself, purpose, it's too far.
Yeah.
There needs to be that middle ground where they back out of the unlearn the limitations, or we could call therapy, transformation. Start with transformation, and then they are able to at least find their best version. That's how I call this.
Yeah, I love it.
Then naturally, best version, no limitations, there is this new space.
Yeah.
There is this intuition kicks in.
And there's an infinite of possibilities.
New ideas, they are coming back to the present moment where the magic lies. They're not missing opportunities anymore, which has been right in front of their eyes all along. There are relationships that could just blow up into $1 million business.
Wow.
And it may not happen in 6 months or a year, but from that point, I believe for me too, money is not a driver anymore as it was. So now it's more around purpose and enjoying, making huge difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
And how joyful that could be. And to do what I love.
I mean, that's the jackpot. You hit the lottery right there.
Never seen anyone in my family.
Yeah.
Ever.
Wow.
Really be inspired to really show up for work, which is not work for me, but really just spend time with what they love. Amazing. Always, everyone's been on someone else's goal plan.
Yeah.
Stuck, not knowing.
Incredible. And so, I mean, if we were to give the audience just some insight or some strategies to set them on the right track on how they may be able to arrive at that point where they are ready to make a change, or they can start using some techniques to start changing, what would you give the audience in terms of, what to look out for, what to think about, what to practice?
I'll give a few, but I do have a book, and if they reach out to me, hashtag Dr. Sapworth, I'm happy to share it and even send it. It's a 10-pager, but
great.
I'm guessing the most important is for you to believe that change is possible.
Yeah.
And it does not take hundreds of thousands of dollars. It does not take 10 years.
Yeah.
One. Or if you don't believe this, that's okay. But at least give it a 1% chance.
Yeah. Allow some hope that
Jar
it is possible.
for a hope.
Yes.
And secondly, I would budget. If I was you, I would budget for my transformation.
Okay.
Now, how does that work?
Yeah.
I believe you need to prioritize where you spend your money.
Mm-hmm.
If you're able to have number one, to really find work, inner work that actually creates results, that's where you want to put your money.
Yep.
Then rent, food, and thirdly, I call crap.
Yep.
Buy shit that you don't need.
Yeah. I love it.
And if you're able to do that, then you may need to kind of change the coach or the mentor or the therapist, whoever you're seeing. But I would encourage you to check whether this person brings results or not.
Yeah.
Because you could be spending money and time with someone who has really not been helping you much. And I tend to come across people who've been on different therapies for years.
Yeah.
Spending. And lastly, it would be finding what you love to really come from passion.
Yeah.
And when you have all of the others in place, then you just need to find out how to make money from what you love.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
that's a really good point. And I suppose, sometimes you can't always make a huge business or make a huge living out of doing what you love. But I'm assuming that even if you did it as a hobby, or if you did it as a side business, or you did it as long as you did it for yourself and whatever results you could leverage from it, you would still be so much happier in your life because you did it.
So true.
What's your take on that?
Absolutely true. And I love how you said it, because yes, it should be a passion project in the beginning.
Yep.
And I believe it really resonates with you. Then again, find someone, and I got plenty of contacts for you to then turn that service, product, whatever it is, and test the market. Who is paying for this?
Yeah.
Who has my customers? Because there are people out there with huge lists where your customers may already be.
Yeah. I always say there's a lid for every pot.
And then if you work that out,
yeah.
then you've got a business and you never have to work again, because it's been a passion project.
Yeah. And as well, just the fact that you've set out on that journey to create that passion project for yourself and experience it feeds back into your self-worth.
And energy, because that's where the energy comes from. When you spend time with stuff that you love, you're excited to do. This is how I started. I said, well, I will do this kind of coaching or mindset work, even if I'm not paid for it.
Yeah.
And then that energy starts to create the results that you're looking for.
Right. It's like a boulder that starts to build momentum from naturally.
So true. It becomes a self-perpetual energy. And I would love to maybe give you a picture of a spiral that is heading upwards.
Yeah.
I love paragliding and I love these thermals, but that's how I see.
Yeah.
And person shifting from unconsciousness to this beautiful life that is designed at its, as it preferred.
Yeah.
And it's possible.
Yeah. I think that's such an important thing, that you've taken the time to give yourself that gift to go on that journey through loving what you're doing, and through helping others through that process is already an incredible, will build an incredible identity and self-worth, and that will bring all sorts of opportunities that you would never have dreamed of.
Spot on. Loving yourself first.
Yep.
Almost, you may have heard about that example, the oxygen mask on the airplane.
Yeah.
You must have it.
Yeah.
To save anyone else.
Yep. So true. Yep.
Use your resources to have your mask.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And so, Andre, if people work with you, how do you actually work? I'd love to kind of explore your process.
Well, some are reaching out through social media, some are just finding me through referrals. But what I normally do is I just give away 1 hour of my full attention and a very deep and profound conversation where normally life-changing awareness starts to happen. And from that point, I need to know whether I want to or choose to work with this person, and then maybe they want to choose me.
Yeah.
If there is this chemistry and we connect well, then naturally we will just make a plan, and it's either group or one-on-one work, and pretty much we'll take it from there. And of course, there are people who are not, they're already seeing other therapists, psychologists, and I don't want to jump into that triangle.
Yeah. Is it not possible to, work with someone in addition to someone else that they're working with? Does it have to be exclusive?
Not really. I can make an exception. I just do not want to give an opposite instruction to someone who has already got a certain methodology. And that's what tends to happen a few times, because I do things differently.
Yeah. Wow.
And that creates confusion then. And that does not serve anyone. But as I said, I'm happy to have a chat to see how we can make that change. ASAP.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, it doesn't have to take a long time. It can just be a few sessions to get results. It's about how you fine tune where you need to go.
Yes, it normally takes me about half an hour.
Wow.
To find something that is a limiting pattern of holding this person back. And I can replicate this pretty much every time. This is what excites me the most, because see, if they choose not to, or I choose not to work with them, the shift of awareness from unconsciousness to consciousness has already happened.
It's already there. Yeah.
They can take that with them.
Yeah, and they can use that as a building block for their journey.
And they can't undo it.
Yeah, that's right.
So it just serves them a beautiful way.
Yeah.
As a gift.
Yeah, you've already done something to help them on their way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's magical and wonderful for me.
Yeah, I love it. And are you specialized in any particular science therapy? Is it NLP, hypnosis, anything in particular, or is it just, a combination of lots of different things?
I do combine a few things, but if there was one specific way how I look at human mind and psychology, that's the NLP approach. And then I bring in other modalities, at times right in the middle of the process, that I intuitively feel that would work right now with this person.
Yeah.
Really fitting into their, I call, model of the world, whether it's religion or new age, or whether it's rocket science. I need to really just help them where they are.
Yeah.
And I don't have preferences. My only preference is fast results.
Yeah.
That's
fast results, and work with somebody that is ready to do the work.
Absolutely, because then new results are guaranteed.
Yeah.
There's no leeway there.
Yeah. I mean, and I'd love to kind of hear a little story. Have you got an example or a case study? Obviously, very confidentially, you're not mentioning any names, but giving us a little story or a case study of how you might have helped somebody and what the process was like.
I can, of course, and most of these are shared on my LinkedIn page and also on my Facebook page. So, for example, David Hubbard works at Cinch, amazing person, and we discovered, business owner, that although he was looking for growth and increase in revenue in his mind, he didn't even have it on the top 5 values to make money.
Right.
He was not aware of it.
Subconsciously, he wasn't really valuing money, but yet at the same time, his strategy was to build and grow his business.
Absolutely. So it's misalignment.
Yeah.
This is my conscious goal. My subconscious is taking me the other direction.
Yeah.
Or, for example, I worked with Evelyn Clark at Journey Point, and we worked through some rejection from mom, and unfortunately, some of the clients started to become mom, where there was no commitment and didn't sign up, and then we shifted this pattern, and she had a completely new experience in personal relationships, not just in business.
Yeah.
Or Katalin, she's from Melbourne, from Swanstone Skincare. She's been kind of not abused, but it was always in this resistance, blaming, angry, and we discovered it was from mom. Wow. She's been inheriting this pattern of being very critical about others, and they were not up to standards. Real assholes driving around her on the freeway. And then we shifted this pattern. Of course, all of these so-called nasty people showed up in her business too. We shifted the pattern. Like, she's got so much peace inside.
Wow.
She's able to connect to clients from that place.
Yeah.
Sales, automatic.
Incredible. Yeah. It's almost, you don't even, when you're on the right wavelength from an energy point of view with your customers, with your family members, with your friends, you don't even have to try. Things happen naturally.
Exactly, because, and this is what a great point that you raised. I believe we are natural creators, and we've always been.
Yeah.
But we've been turning off our own superpowers.
Yeah, we've been drowning and dulling down all those natural abilities in favor of principles and strategies and techniques that don't really serve us. Yeah.
So yeah, pretty much my job is to bring that childlike self back.
I love it.
Playful, fun, present.
Yeah.
Don't worry about past, don't worry about future.
Yeah.
Yes, have a goal, but really just show up.
Yeah, just show up and be open.
Be open to receive. And the other one, I think what I've come across with a lot of people, that receiving, the balance of giving and receiving at business owners is a big one. And it's way out.
Yeah.
Doing so much for so little that self-worth, that must shift, that identity.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point. In this modern era now of business, a lot of the time we're told, and we tend to pursue that strategy of give, and it will come back to you. But I think there has to be a line as well where you have to value what you're giving and value yourself to say, all right, that's enough.
Yeah, definitely create those boundaries, which will really, if you value yourself and you create your own boundaries, then others will do the same.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's always a reflection from the outside.
Yeah. Amazing. I love it. As they say, teach people how to treat you.
Absolutely. And it starts with self.
And it starts with self. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, Andre. And apologies, I keep calling you Andre. Your name is Andre, but my pronunciation isn't as good as I wanted.
That's all right. We'll practice.
I've got to practice.
On another session.
Absolutely. Awesome. But Andre, tell us a bit more about how we can actually find you if we want to work with you.
The easiest to find me is using hashtag Doctor of Self-Worth.
Okay, love it.
If you search for it, then you can find me in Instagram and Facebook, LinkedIn. I've got a YouTube channel called Step Into Your Power with Endre
Awesome.
And I have a lot of free giveaway to really plant the seeds into the garden of your mind to then grow that piece of self-worth for you, because planting is key.
Yeah.
Have a
I love that
nurturing,
metaphor. Plant the seed in the garden of your mind. That's beautiful. That's
and
great.
I believe the more you plant, and
Yeah.
by the way, I'm not a fan of mainstream media.
Mm.
If you really want to plant the garden, then choose whether the information that you take in any way, whether it's listening or watching, then really have a mindful decision what you expose yourself to, and choose nurturing
I agree. Yep. And
always.
and probably more valuable than ever before. Media and social media and communication is getting noisier and noisier and noisier, and it's stealing our time and our attention and our energy. So I think you have to be so careful what you allow yourself to consume.
Absolutely. Or what you experience through it, because they can steal your self-worth. I can tell you right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
They can steal your attention, which is one of your biggest assets. And moreover, they will really inject you with anxiety, fears, and different programming that is not actually true.
That's right. And I think that's why these days more and more people have issues with self-worth, because they compare themselves with many more people through the communication channels that are available to us these days. Whereas in the old days, you might not have been in close proximity to that many stories. Nowadays, you are at scale. So you're constantly comparing yourself to everybody else.
Yeah, that's the nature of reality now, where we have this World Wide Web or social media, where we are really thrown off each other.
Yeah.
But again, if you have a comparing pattern, it doesn't take much to drop and release it. So reach out or work it out.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Well, Endre, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really enjoyed that deep dive into your own story, but you've given us so much important strategy and insight into how we can really make a change in our own lives. And I think, it'd be incredible to work with you. So if anybody's interested in reaching out, please do. I'll put all the links and notes in the show notes for the episode. So please reach out to Endre. And is there anything else that you'd like to leave us with before we finish up?
Well, I love spending some time with you, and I'm hoping that maybe all of the information that we have shared here could change many lives, because I think there's been a lot said and shared here.
Absolutely. I hope so. And another call out to the audience. If you want us to come back and discuss a particular subsection of what we spoke about or a particular area, please do let us know. Reach out to Endre or reach out to me, and we'd love to put something together for you.
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you very much.
But thank you again. It's been an absolute pleasure. Everybody out there, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Have a great day, and we'll see you very, very soon for another episode of Playing with Perspective, the Suspended Animation Podcast. Bye for now. Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Playing with Perspective, the Suspended Animation Podcast. If you would like to join me as a guest on the show, I would be delighted to collaborate. Feel free to buzz me on 0414 659 800 or email me on darren@suspendedanimation.com.au. I'm always on the lookout for great guests who can share their stories and expertise with my community. Also, if you have been thinking about putting your own podcast together and not sure where to begin, look no further. I run a really simple 3-part podcasting course, one-on-one with me, where I walk you through the entire podcasting journey. You will end up with a fantastic new podcast to start sharing right away. Feel free to get in touch to discuss further. But for now, though, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.